Coming up on Currently, we're looking at three big stories shaping Traverse City's future. First, voters will decide this November on three key ballot proposals. Then we'll turn to Lot O, where plans are underway for a new downtown development, combining affordable housing with a year-round local food market. That's all ahead on Currently. Welcome to Currently, where we discuss some of the top local stories directly from the journalists who are covering them. I'm your host, Christal Frost. This podcast was recorded on Wednesday, September 17th. The Tigers are 85-66, leading the AL Central by 5.5 games, with 11 games left in the regular season. That said, things may change by the time you're watching or listening. Support for Currently comes from West Shore Bank. When you choose West Shore Bank, you're not just choosing a bank. You are choosing a partner committed to the well-being of our community. Visit them today on 8th Street or at westshorebank.com. Support also comes from the Coin Slot Arcade Bar in Traverse City, a chill hangout with a full bar in a low-key setting. Welcoming for the 33rd time, Ms. Beth Milligan, head writer for Traverse City Ticker. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well.
I feel like I haven't seen you since the Emmys.
Yeah, that was a real battle.
That
you
was
and I
a battle.
had a real battle on Emmys night, which we previewed last week on the show.
We did. We talked about Emmys last week on the show. Television's biggest night.
Yes.
And we had a little bit of we had our friends
friendship
over.
Showdown.
It
Showdown.
It was a friendship showdown. And you took the honors of first place. You got the brass.
I did. You were neck and neck with me for a long time.
It's true.
I think I brought the score sheet up to go to the facts. I had 12 at the end. You had 9. And then we had a couple others, behind from there. Our friend Gary, friend of the show, Gary, Food Fight Gary.
Food Fight Gary, not great.
had one correct right. And we were joking that it's almost impossible to do that.
Yeah.
Like you could almost have a better result by just like throwing a dart randomly at the wall. He had fan favorite picks, like critical picks in some categories that had upsets. He had random picks in other ones, and he squeezed one out. We love you, Gary. It was a fun time.
It was so much fun. My husband, Jordan, who is a producer of Currently, happens to think of himself as a television aficionado. He feels like he knows more about TV than anyone else, but he was
incorrect.
Incorrect. He tied for third along with our friend Ben. And we had a little side bet going, Jordan and I.
Oh, yeah.
Because we do watch TV after work at night, and we have snacks during that time. So the winner between the two of us is supposed to be supplying snacks all week long. Right?
Where are these snacks?
I know. So I have to say at this point, Snack Boy. Oh, Snack Boy, come over.
Snack Boy.
Where are my snacks?
Oh! Twizzlers. Nice.
Now the idea, thank you.
This show is brought to you by Twizzlers, an official product placement. It's not. We don't have that.
It's really not. We don't have that.
National. We have great local sponsors.
I have to tell you, one of the things behind this side bet was that Jordan is not allowed to complain or delay when I ask for snacks. Already, he has tried to delay a few times. Let me just tell you.
Well, maybe
he's looking over at me like, no, I
better
haven't.
at TV, and we'll see you next year at the next Emmys party.
Absolutely. Yeah, so much fun. Well, let's get into the real news here. Traverse City voters have a couple of ballot proposals to consider this November. And Beth, can you tell us a little bit about the Parks Project and the ethics ordinance headed to the ballot?
Sure. Well, let's start with parks, because there will be 2 ballot proposals if you're a Traverse City voter, if you're within the city of Traverse City, 2 ballot proposals related to the Brown Bridge Trust Fund on the ballot. One of them is what I would probably describe more as a housekeeping ballot amendment. It will allow the city commission to occasionally borrow money from the Brown Bridge Trust Fund internally if that is recommended by the city treasurer. And essentially, it's just like if the city interest rates, it would pay itself interest.
Okay.
But if interest rates are high for like an external loan, it could borrow money from this fund, which is just typically just sitting in a bank account internally and pay it back. So that's one proposal, more just of an internal funding mechanism. But the one that I think will be particularly of interest to voters is the one about using $3 million from the Brown Bridge Trust Fund to put into a separate account that would be used for park improvements.
Park improvements.
Over the next 5 years. So $3 million over the next 5 years for park improvements.
Okay.
This is something that we have gone to the voters with in the past. So, the Brown Bridge Trust Fund is a city fund that holds money that we get from oil, gas, and mineral rights on city property, specifically the Brown Bridge quiet area.
Okay.
So that's where the interest in that fund goes into the city's general fund, but the main principle can only be used if voters say yes.
Oh, wow.
So it sits there. In 2014, voters approved capping that fund at $12 million and using additional dollars for the next 5 years for park projects.
Okay.
So that went to things like Hickory Hills Ski Area, the Wags West Dog Park, Lay Park, Clancy Park, Brown Bridge Quiet Area. In 2019, voters did the same thing. They capped the fund again, used the excess money for park improvement projects. So that time around, we had things like Boone Street Park, F&M Park, Arbutus, Ashton, Highland, Indian Woods, Jupiter Gardens. So this time around, we're coming to the next ballot proposal. It's kind of a similar thing. This time we want to take $3 million out and put it towards park projects. And that was what the city commission was discussing this week. They've already agreed to put it on the ballot, but what are those park projects going to look like?
What's currently in the fund right now? Is it around $12 million?
Yes.
Okay, so that seems to be kind of the cap.
Yeah, in May the audit put it about 11.6. So yeah, it slowly can build up over time. So the $3 million is really meant to go into two different categories. And there was an ad hoc of city commissioners, Tim Werner, Heather Shaw, and Mitch Treble, who worked on this for several months.
Okay.
There was also very extensive survey input taken from the community, and people did really respond to those surveys.
Good.
They have a lot of feelings about parks.
Yeah.
So the idea is to improve access to parks as one of them.
Okay.
So that is looking at a couple things. It's looking to improving access to the Boardman Lake Loop Trail. Bryant Park, if you know Bryant Park, it has a lot of challenges with pedestrians crossing there by the church and people coming off the peninsula. It's kind of a dangerous area, and a lot of people use that park. And then just general ADA accessibility improvements in parks. The other category is investments into our current parks. So this time around, in the past, we have used Brown Bridge dollars to acquire new property or to do specific park projects. This time around, the list is not really focused on acquisition. What the commission heard from people in the city was, we like the parks we have right now, and we want you to take better care of them.
Oh.
We want you to invest more in the parks that we have.
Okay.
So that can be simple things like playground equipment, sport amenities, pavilions, lighting. Benches, trees, waste bins, so there's not garbage and litter in the parks. There's also some specific projects working, the Brown Bridge Quiet Area recently expanded with voter approval, so improving the trails and trailhead development there, looking at a mountain bike system for Hickory Hills.
Ooh.
One that I thought was interesting, because you and I did a whole show almost about E. coli.
Oh, yeah.
And this issue that we have with our beaches closing every year, which, as folks will remember, they often think is our sewer mains overflowing, and it's usually not. It's usually things like bird runoff. So one of the priority areas of funding is lakeshore stabilization. That would look at things like maybe like Sunset Park or West Grand Traverse Bay. Part of the issue is so many people going back and forth between the land and the water eventually erodes the lakefront over time.
Yeah.
That makes it easy for geese to get up from the lake onto the beach, which is like a convenient place to hang out and go to the bathroom if you're a goose. So doing some stabilization so that we don't have that E. coli runoff, protecting the watershed a little bit better.
Right. And not having our beaches be, bathrooms for geese.
Essentially public restrooms for geese,
Right.
which is also related to swimmer safety and not having our beaches closed and not having health impacts. So I think what's interesting about this funding this time around, it has more flexibility. The projects aren't in a specific priority list. That was intentional. And again, it's these categories of spending, like improving parks, but it's not specific park projects like it's been in the past.
Right.
And that's really to allow the city to be adaptable. If they have a chance to get a matching grant for a specific property, they can go for that. It doesn't have to be at the bottom or top of the list. And also they can continue to get public input as they're developing the Parks and Recreation Master Plan to say, okay, what are we going to specifically work on in these different categories?
This trust fund, the Brown Bridge Trust Fund, is pretty unique and took a lot of, real thought put into this to turn it into something that really has shaped, I think, the city's parks over the years.
For sure. I mean, so many of the park improvement projects, especially in the last decade plus, have really been funded with this. And it's usually, when these ballot proposals have come forward every 5 years, they're overwhelmingly supported by voters. They seem to have strong support because otherwise you have a fund that's just essentially sitting there with millions of dollars that could be going into active use to improve these things for the community.
Well, Traverse City has such a strong park system relative to its size. And, it's obvious that residents here really appreciate those parks.
Yeah, so if you go to traverseticker.com, if you're just interested in learning more, that list of all the improvements is in there just so when you go to the polls in November, you can understand what that $3 million is meant to be going for in the next 5 years. And if there's any of that money at the end of the 5 years that is not spent on those specific categories, it just goes back into that fund.
Very good. Well, we're going to move into another important piece, which is talking about ethics ordinances. And this makes me think of in the movie Billy Madison, when at the end, you know what I'm going to say immediately, when he has to play that final Jeopardy round in front of the entire school, and he picks business ethics. So that's what we're kind of talking about.
Yeah, government ethics, but yes, very close. Ethics has been a hot button topic this year, both in the city of Traverse City and in Grand Traverse County.
True.
Both of those two municipalities are creating ethics policies. It's important to know it's not that they didn't have anything guiding their ethical behavior before, one, in terms of just the things that they've pledged as elected officials and transparency to the public, but two, both the county and the city, there's employee handbooks, there's code of conduct handbooks. But both of them have really felt that what they had in place, one, largely excluded elected and appointed officials. It was meant for staff. And two, was not robust enough to deal with some of the situations that have been coming up. In Grand Traverse County, it was allegations involving Commissioner Rob Henschel and multiple other commissioners, I should mention, over the last couple of years. There were multiple incidents that raised ethical questions for that commission. On the city commission level, former city manager Liz Vogel had recommended a pretty sizable IT contract without disclosing that the head of that company was a friend of hers. She didn't stand to gain anything financially. The county prosecutor had reviewed it, didn't find any criminal wrongdoing, but it was a sort of a appearance of a conflict of interest that really generated discussion. So both of these policies at the county and city level are meant to just sort of assure the public that ethical considerations are important for these commissions, and also to put an enforcement mechanism in place for dealing with it. So on the city level, right now, they just have a very simple 2-page conflict of interest policy right now that does not cover elected and appointed officials. I went Monday to a committee meeting of this group of commissioners who's getting the draft of the new policy ready. We've gone from 2 to 12 pages now. It's very robust.
Wow.
Very comprehensive. It will apply to all employees as well as all volunteers, elected and appointed officials, essentially anyone working on behalf of the city.
Okay.
So, it's really meant to kind of get everyone on the same page.
Right.
And it covers, a wide variety of things. We're talking about everything from improperly using your position for private gain, giving preferential treatment to particular people or organizations, making decisions outside of official channels, interfering with law enforcement, nepotism, public property use. It's, a wide range of categories. And then it is recommending using an arbiter who would be a third party, someone in the community. It could be an attorney, HR director, someone they find in the community. Each January, they would appoint this person. And if there was an ethical complaint, that person would do all of the fact finding. And then make a recommendation to the city commission about, yes, there was a violation or not. And here is what a recommended penalty should be for that.
For everyone. So not just for elected or appointed officials. This arbiter would be basically looking at any ethics violation.
Yeah, and that would be any employee. Now, there still is an HR department within the city, and there's still sometimes there personnel issues that might be, we might have coworkers in a conflict or someone showing up late, things that are normal.
Which is not ethics.
That's workplace normal violations. HR still handles that. And in fact, the arbiter might look at a complaint and say, you know what, actually, that's really HR's issue. Or it could be a more serious issue that goes to the Department of Civil Rights. But they kind of will be someone who's experienced in that field to know how to do that. And then the penalties are a wide range of things. Sometimes you can censor someone publicly, meaning the city commission issues a public statement of condemnation of their behavior, just essentially a slap on the wrist saying that wasn't good and we didn't like that.
We don't like that.
We don't like that. Or it can be more serious leading up to termination. Elected officials, and this was true when the county adopted their new policy too, is a little more challenging. You can't really take an elected official out of office without a recall or the governor intervening. But you can do these things like censorship or say, we conducted a public investigation and found out you violated our ethics policies. And then voters can decide in the next election whether they want to remove that person.
I can't remember if we covered this or not. When Grand Traverse County adopted their own strengthened ethics policy, I think it was back in May.
It was earlier this year,
okay.
Yes. Yep.
Did they include use of an arbiter?
So they have a policy in which their complaints will initially go to the county administrator or the HR director to investigate. And of course, if it involves those people, it would go to an ethics panel. That would be an appointed panel. They would handle complaints that either involve the administrator, HR, maybe a county commissioner who's a boss, of the administrator. Or if it was serious and it was like, this needs to be investigated, this appointed panel would do this. Now, in the time that has been adopted, it's only been a few months. There has not been anything yet.
Okay.
But that process is in place.
Well, good to know. And obviously, you do these kinds of things because you want to reduce, you want to reduce corruption, right? Or perceived corruption. But also, I'm assuming that given, these days, it would be transparency. It's all about just enhancing that transparency.
Yeah, and I should just let city voters know that what they'll see on the ballot in November, they won't see this whole 12-page ethic ordinance. There's one very short question that just says, basically, should we amend the city charter to require that we have an ethics ordinance in place? And then you can go to traverseticker.com, or in the coming weeks, the city commission will likely be looking at this, and you can find it in the packet to see what the whole ordinance is. Why it's important to put it in the charter is we could have an ethics ordinance even without the charter. City can just say, we have a policy. But if voters enshrine it in the charter, it means that it's always required to be in place. So a future commission, let's say one is more corrupt if they want it to be in the future, or just, they didn't feel like, we don't really care about ethics, could just say, actually, we're going to get rid of the ethics policy. They cannot do that if it is in the city charter. It requires an ethics ordinance to remain in place for the future.
I get it now.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that. One last question about that arbiter. Is this a paid position or an appointed position? Because realistically, this could, if something came up, it could get pricey, right?
That's a good question. Yeah, and I should note that the draft is still in progress. So when I talked to them on Monday and covered their meeting, they were still working out the arbiter process and the penalties. But that, I think it's envisioned to be an appointed position. And there are often people who volunteer for those because they see it as a professional, as a give back to the community.
For sure.
But it's possible if it was lengthy that maybe that would be a future consideration.
Well, terrific. And if you want to read a little bit more about that, just go to traversticker.com. We're going to be talking about Lot O, the places it will go. That's coming up in just a moment here. But first, a word for our supporter, West Shore Bank. Now, friends, the school year is officially underway. And if you're like most families, the spending doesn't stop once classes begin. On the contrary, between school supplies, sports fees, snacks, and all those little surprises, it really adds up. That's why I want to share something new from West Shore Bank. It's called the Savings Center, and you'll find it right inside the WSB Touch app. It's a super easy tool to help you stay on top of your goals. You can set up a dedicated savings plan, automate transfers, and even round up your purchases so you're saving a little bit every time you spend. How about that? So whether you're planning ahead for next semester, holiday shopping, a vacation, or you just want to start building that emergency fund, the Savings Center can help you stay one step ahead. And the best part, West Shore Bank is local. That means real people, real support, and branches right here in northern Michigan. So put your savings to work. Open up the WSB Touch app and check out the Savings Center today. West Shore Bank, saving made simple right here at home. Products and services may require enrollment. Other terms, conditions, and fees may apply. Welcome back to Currently, where we move our attention over to Lot O, which I feel like we've been talking about for several years now.
Yes, I think everyone involved has been talking about that one for a long time.
And for those who may not be familiar with Lot O, you probably are, and you just don't realize it.
Yeah.
It is right next to the omelet shop. Currently it's a parking lot.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a parking lot, right? Yes, exactly. Right on the corner of Cass and State Street. And this has been a discussed 5-story mixed-use development, as you mentioned, for several years. So Homestretch is involved as kind of the project lead on this. The upper floors of the building will be 44 units of rental apartments, income targeted.
Ooh.
Pretty, I would say, far below what the normal market level is for apartments downtown. And they've been working to get funding partners lined up, to get all the logistics. They had an agreement in place with the city several years ago to buy that parking lot for this project. And then the ground floor is a commercial space, and they have only so far hinted that it would be some kind of food market.
Oh, okay.
However, in our story that came out yesterday, Thursday, in the ticker, and that's going to be discussed today, Friday morning, as the show airs, the DDA will be discussing this Lot O project. There are brand new details coming out about the market, which seems like a pretty exciting project for downtown Traverse City.
So not just a grocery store.
Not just a grocery store. If any folks listening or watching the show have been to Grand Rapids, this is envisioned to be modeled after the Grand Rapids downtown market. So what we're talking about is, first of all, this is about 4,000 square feet on the ground floor.
That's big.
It's a large size, a big footprint of the building. The ground floor is envisioned, first of all, to feature local farmers 7 days a week.
Oh.
So it's kind of a partnership with the Sarah Hardy Farmers Market, which is run by the DDA and by Seeds, a local organization. And so instead of just being able to get your fresh produce from the Sarah Hardy Market on Wednesday and Saturday mornings during, this limited market season, it will provide space for those farmers to be selling their goods 7 days a week year round.
That's amazing.
So right in downtown Traverse City, right in the heart. And then the other components of it are, just like any food market you walk into in a big city, there's all these sort of different food areas or stalls. So there's a hot and cold deli envisioned, a coffee bar, grocery staples, fresh sushi made on site, to-go beverages, which will include a limited selection of local beer and wine plus non-alcoholic beverages, kind of a hot and ready stand or items that you can take and heat up at home, and curbside and delivery service for the market.
I mean, this is an outstanding idea.
It's something that, so Tamarack Holdings, which is a family of local food companies that includes Cherry Capital Foods, Great Lakes Farm to Freezer, Food for Thought, and Harvest Food Systems, which is the main partnership in this market. Many, they're involved on the Long Lake, the former elementary school out there. So they really saw a need for something like this.
Well, especially since Max Bauer's closed, right?
Max Bauer's was the only grocery store within the DDA boundaries. Okay. No, I mean, I want to give a shout out to the fact that we obviously have many local businesses just outside of the DDA district. Sure. Burris is actually just outside, even though we think of Burris being downtown.
Yeah, right. And
Oriana, Family Fair, Tom's. I mean, they're all around the perimeter of downtown. But in the DDA district itself, there is not a grocery store. There's the farmer's market. So this is, envisioned to fill that hole. It's especially helpful, I think, for the tenants upstairs in this building, these 44 income-restricted apartments, because this really was positioned as a project where people could live there, and if they didn't want to have a car, they wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
There's no parking on site. So those tenants could now have access to the beta system downtown to get around. You can walk and bike to a lot of places from downtown. But now you've got a downstairs grocery store with fresh local produce and protein. It's even envisioned to have like a little area that will have like personal hygiene products, like things you might need on a daily basis. Right there, right in the heart of downtown Traverse City.
So let's move to talking about the residents. So the Homestretch being kind of, leading the charge on this, you're talking about, these units that are definitely going to be affordable. 30% the area median income. So that's down to like $452 in some cases, right?
Yeah. So there's the 44 units are kind of broken into different categories, starting at 30% AMI, which is far below market rate.
And that's 11 units will be. There's not just one or two.
Right. That's 11. And that, that's a household income we're talking about just under $23,000 to $31,000. So it's very, low income for our area. And then you get some in the 40% AMI range, going up a little bit more to like the 30 to 40,000 income level.
And that's another 12 units, which I'm going, wow, we're talking about families making under $50,000 a year. You're already going to have 23 units.
Right, to be able to live downtown. And then we're getting up for 15 units at 80% AMI. That's probably people more who are like your teachers and, our average like working class in Traverse City. And then there will be 6, but just 6 of the 44 will be market rate units. So like a 1-bedroom, we were looking at about $1,600 there, which is still, I think, a little bit below what the market is right now, and to be in the heart of downtown Traverse City. So yes, Homestretch really does focus. It's a nonprofit. It has a lot of government funding attached to this project, which is over a $19 million project, including funding support from the city of Traverse City. So the timeline for this, now that they've finally, over all these years, they've had to deal with multiple city manager changes, funding rejections, going back, changing the project plans. It takes a lot of work to build affordable housing in the core of the city. But they're getting this stuff in place, and now they have this market partnership, which is called Cherry Capital City Market, in place. So barring any unforeseen changes, this project is now set to break ground next year.
Wow.
With construction continuing through 2027. Cherry Capital City Market on the ground floor hopes to host its grand opening in the fall of 2027.
I mean, this is unbelievable. How can people, obviously, if you're working through Homestretch, are you working on a wait list situation? Are they using housing choice vouchers? Do we know what?
Yeah, they have it right now on their website. They have mentioned, the units aren't open yet because we're still, probably 2 years out at least from occupancy. But they do, and other projects that Homestretch has done locally. These are, I see a lot of skepticism in the comment section, and I understand why. There have been projects in the past in Traverse City that have been billed as workforce housing that eventually became something else. With these types of projects with partners like Homestretch involved with government funding attached, I think folks should just know that there are careful reporting and income eligibility verification requirements. So it's not just that they can say it and then all of a sudden all those apartments will become $3,000 a month. They're very strictly tied to funding requirements.
This is huge. Way to go. It feels like we've been talking about it for a long time. These things take time, and hopefully in 2027, we're going to see, really 44 units with the majority of them under, the area median income. That's huge. You can't get more downtown than that location either. You just can't.
Right. It's like, stay in Cass and pop up from the beach and get some food and go back. Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to leave my house and move there. I love that. Sorry, Jordan. You're on your own. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Great stories, Beth. Thank you so much for covering all that news. And again, if you want to read more in detail, just go to traverseticker.com. Make sure you're hitting subscribe, because then the ticker comes directly to your inbox, so you can just drink your coffee and you can, read all of the news that Beth and her colleagues write. Again, thank you for another great show. Be sure to subscribe to this show on all platforms at crystalfrost.com. You can follow us on social media and subscribe to Currently with Crystal Frost wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch the full show live in color on YouTube and Facebook. And Currently is a Compass Local podcast produced by Pancake Boy Productions. Big thanks to our supporters, West Shore Bank and the Coin Slot. And before we go, anything you are looking forward to this week?
Yes. One is we are having, I'm on the board of directors for the Bay Theater on Suns Bay, and we are having a concert, kind of a kickoff to our Fall Live at the Bay series on Saturday with May Erlewine, who is so fantastic. And that show is almost sold out. There may be, by the time this episode comes out, it may be sold out. Ooh. But if you check, there might be there's a handful of tickets as of today still left. But that is going to be an incredible show. And then I'm going to Saugatuck for several days with my partner to hang out with his family.
Oh, so much fun.
Saugatuck is amazing if you've never been.
It really is.
Yeah.
I have a few things to look forward to. First, want to give a plug to tomorrow morning's Wilderness Fun Run that's hosted by Peace Ranch. It's happening bright and early, Saturday, September 20th. There's two options. The 5K starting at 9 a.m., the 10K for those overachievers that is starting at 7:30 a.m. It's a one-of-a-kind run through the Pere Marquette Forest, so it's going to be beautiful. Also, I'm going to be a part of a panel discussion for a documentary film called The Prison Show, and that is going to be presented at the State Theater on Wednesday, September 24th. It's a community event and discussion from before, during, and after incarceration. This is a really great documentary that kind of outlines a radio show that is intended for people who are in a Houston, Texas prison to communicate with the people on the outside.
Oh, cool.
It's really cool.
That sounds great.
It sounds really cool. And finally, above all of that, my husband and I, the snack boy. We are celebrating 10 years of marriage next week. We made it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Double digits.
I'm so happy. And I did hear on the 10th year you give whatever your favorite licorice is.
That's his favorite licorice.
Yeah.
So...
it's in our friend group. We've got a Red Vines Twizzlers debate, but we'll go with Twizzlers for the anniversary.
I have to say Twizzlers or we won't make it to 10. So yeah, that's what we're looking forward to next week. We are going to be celebrating at the Cook's house. First time I've ever been there.
So good. Oh, man. You're in for a real treat.
I'm super excited. So I know I'm late to the party, but that's what we have. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week on Currently.